Jamorant. You talked to him at halftime. Any notes from him through quarters 1 and 2?
I asked him for a grant, not a loan. A loan means I got to pay it back. I said, can I get a grant? Man, look at all this ice on you. He said, the money don't kick in for a little bit, so I'm still broke, baby.
He made a comment the other day.
When you add up everything, suspended game checks, lost bonuses, endorsements pulled, the estimated cost of Ja Morant's decisions over the last few years reaches around $60 million. Not a career-ending injury, not a bad contract. Decisions. And the part that makes this story genuinely hard to process is that none of it touched his talent. On the court, when he's actually on it, Ja Morant is one of the most explosive guards the league has ever seen. That part was never in question. Everything else around it was. Here's how it happened. Ja didn't come into the league with hype behind him. He grew up in South Carolina, trained hard by his father, and spent his early years being almost completely overlooked. No national attention, no major recruiting push, no spotlight. He ended up at Murray State, not a powerhouse program, after a scout caught him playing in a small gym almost by chance. At Murray State, the obscurity ended fast. Triple-doubles became routine. He led his team deep into the NCAA tournament, and when scouts actually started watching, what they found wasn't just a talented player, it was a player with zero red flags. Coaches praised his attitude. Teammates respected him. Everyone used the same words: humble, hardworking, coachable. The kind of person franchises dream about building around. The Memphis Grizzlies took him second overall, and he validated that choice from day one. His rookie season didn't look like an adjustment period. It looked like a takeover. Around 18 points and 7 assists per game, highlight plays every night. Fearless drives against defenders twice his size, dunks that shouldn't be physically possible, finishes in traffic that made people stop and replay the clip. Rookie of the Year, nearly unanimous. And through all of it, the personality matched the play. No ego, no drama. The same kid people described before the draft, now just doing it on the biggest stage. By his third season, he was an all-star, putting up 27 points per game. Most improved player. The Grizzlies were winning, and he was the reason. The league had found its next electric star, young, marketable, genuinely exciting to watch. Everything was aligned. That's when the cracks started forming. The changes were gradual at first. Late nights, more partying, an entourage that traveled with him to every city. Reports of arriving to facilities tired or late. Energy and practice that didn't always match his usual level. Inside the organization, staff noticed the pattern building. The problem was that nobody stepped in hard enough to stop it, because he was still producing 27 points per game, all-star caliber. When a franchise player is delivering results at that level, teams hesitate to create friction. A role player gets corrected immediately. A star gets more room to make mistakes. And that room, over time, becomes a problem in itself, because behavior that goes unchecked doesn't stay the same. It escalates. The incidents started stacking up. A confrontation connected to his family at a store, a physical altercation during a pickup game at his own house that led to a filed case with Ja claiming self-defense. A situation at a high school volleyball game involving his sister that turned into something larger once he and his group arrived. A report from another NBA organization claiming a red laser, the kind associated with a weapon, was pointed at them from a vehicle connected to his group. Each one on its own could be explained away. Together, they formed a pattern that was harder to dismiss. The Memphis organization finally sat down with him, warned him, told him they'd seen this path before with other players, and it didn't end well. But at that point, Ja was still performing at a high level, still convinced that results covered everything else. The message didn't land the way it needed to. Then came the moment that made ignoring it impossible. Late night, after a loss, inside a club. He went live on Instagram, and for a few seconds a handgun was visible on camera. The clip spread within minutes. The NBA suspended him for 8 games and issued a public statement calling the behavior reckless and dangerous. He apologized, entered a counseling program, and the general response from people watching was cautious optimism. Maybe this was the wake-up call that reset everything. It wasn't. A few months later, on another Instagram Live, another gun appeared. The second incident was worse than the first. Not because the action was dramatically different, but because of what the repetition communicated. The first time could be framed as a mistake. The second time made it a pattern. There was no longer a credible argument that he hadn't understood the consequences. The NBA suspended him for 25 games, one of the longest suspensions in modern league history. Endorsements disappeared. Nike, the most important one, pulled away. When you calculate the suspended checks, the lost bonuses, and the endorsement money that evaporated, the number reaches approximately $60 million. That figure doesn't include the longer-term damage to his market value or his negotiating position on future contracts. When he came back, the 30-point return game with a game winner felt like the story was turning. That night, everything that made him special was visible again. The speed, the finishing, the fearlessness. It looked like the talent had survived everything surrounding it, and the reset was real. Then his shoulder gave out. A serious injury ended the season early, and when he returned from that, more physical issues followed. Hard falls, missed games, stretches where he wasn't himself on the court. At one point, he said he was thinking about stopping dunking, the one thing that defined his entire brand. His scoring dropped. His shooting percentages dropped. His turnovers increased. Statistically, it became the weakest stretch of his career. In interviews, the energy that once made him magnetic wasn't there anymore. When asked directly if he was enjoying basketball, his answer was one word: no. Around this time, instead of working against the villain narrative that had formed around him, he started accepting it. Comments like, "I've been a villain for 2 years now," made clear he knew what people were saying and had stopped fighting it. Gun-like celebrations continued on the court despite league warnings and fines that reached into the tens of thousands. Tension with the coaching staff went public. He was suspended by the Grizzlies themselves. A franchise suspending its own franchise player is not something that happens quietly. After one heated exchange, Klay Thompson called him out publicly, questioning his accountability and behavior. When opponents from other teams feel comfortable saying things like that out loud, it tells you where your reputation sits across the league. His trade value, once untouchable, had dropped. Not because teams doubted his ability to play basketball. They'd all seen the highlights. It was because reliability had become the real question. Teams don't just invest in talent. They invest in knowing their cornerstone player will be present, focused, and accountable when it matters most. That certainty no longer existed with jamorant, which is the genuinely frustrating part of the whole story. At his best, there are only a handful of guards in NBA history who can do what he does in the air. The explosiveness, the finishing over defenders who have 4 or 5 inches on him, the full-speed creativity in traffic, that skill level is real and it's rare. That was never the issue. The issue is that the last few seasons have proven repeatedly that talent alone doesn't protect a career. Availability does. Consistency does. The ability to stay out of your own way does. Right now, 2 very different versions of his future are still possible. One where he actually locks in, gets healthy, stays out of situations that don't involve basketball, channels whatever is driving the behavior into his game instead, and reminds everyone why he was supposed to be one of the faces of the league. That version of jamorant still exists. The talent didn't leave. The other is more of the same. More missed games, more distractions, more lost money, and eventually a career that gets remembered more for what went wrong than for what the highlights showed was possible. The distance between those 2 futures isn't about talent. It was never about talent. It's about whether the choices start matching the capability, and whether that shift happens before the window closes. What do you think? Does jamorant still have the chance to become what he was supposed to be, or has too much already slipped away? Drop your take in the comments. Subscribe for more stories about the players who made the league worth watching, for better or worse.